Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about traps, not metaphorical ones, not motivational ones, but biological and behavioral patterns that create genuine loops inside your body that are genuinely difficult to exit without understanding what's holding you in them. Because that's the thing about being stuck. It rarely feels like a choice. It feels like trying. Like doing the right things and still not moving. Like starting over and arriving at the same place. And when that happens repeatedly, most people conclude that the problem is them. Their discipline, their follow-through, their mindset. According to research, dietary restriction without gut restoration is one of the most common patterns in people with functional digestive symptoms, and it tends to make the underlying condition worse over time. A narrowing diet reduces microbial diversity, which weakens the very gut barrier that was generating the sensitivities in the first place. In one study, highly restrictive diets maintained for over 6 months were associated with measurably lower microbiome diversity and higher rates of new food intolerances, compared to baseline. The restriction wasn't healing the gut. It was quietly making it more fragile. The exit from this trap isn't eating everything recklessly. It's rebuilding the terrain first, then expanding from a stronger foundation. The second trap is fixing your sleep with more hours instead of better architecture. You know you're in this trap when you sleep 8 or 9 hours and still wake up exhausted. When no amount of rest feels genuinely restorative. When you lie in bed long enough but never feel like the sleep did what sleep is supposed to do. Sleep quality is not primarily determined by duration. The third trap is using stimulants to manage energy instead of addressing what's depleting it. Coffee is not the problem, but using it to override a system that is signaling genuine dysfunction is when your natural cortisol rhythm is flattened. When your mitochondria are producing energy inefficiently due to chronic inflammation. When your blood sugar is swinging through the day, caffeine provides temporary relief while the underlying depletion continues accumulating. According to research, chronic high caffeine consumption in the context of poor sleep and elevated stress further blunts the cortisol awakening response, meaning the body's own ability to generate morning energy gradually diminishes. You need more caffeine to feel the same baseline. And without it, you feel worse than you did before you started relying on it. The stimulant didn't solve the depletion. It borrowed against it. The fourth trap is treating symptoms in isolation. This one is perhaps the most systemic of all. Your dermatologist treats your skin. Your GP manages your fatigue. A nutritionist looks at your diet. A therapist addresses your anxiety. Each intervention is reasonable in its domain, but none of them are talking to each other, and neither, often, is the person experiencing all of it simultaneously. In one study, individuals with 3 or more concurrent functional symptoms, fatigue, digestive irregularity, skin issues, mood instability, were found to share a common biological profile: elevated intestinal permeability, reduced microbiome diversity, and higher circulating inflammatory markers. The symptoms looked separate. The upstream driver was shared. Treating one without addressing the source left the others untouched, and the person cycling through specialists indefinitely without resolution. The gut is often the central node. Missing it means missing the pattern. The fifth trap is confusing motivation with biology. This is the one I feel most strongly about. When someone can't sustain a healthy habit, consistent exercise, better eating, earlier bedtimes, the cultural default is to frame it as a motivation problem, a mindset problem, a willpower problem. But according to research, motivation is not a fixed character trait. It is a neurochemical output. It is produced by dopamine signaling, by stable serotonin availability, by adequate sleep-driven prefrontal function, and by a gut microbiome that is producing the neurotransmitter precursors the brain depends on. A depleted, inflamed, sleep-deprived system produces less motivation neurochemically. Full stop. Telling someone in that state to try harder is like telling a car with an empty tank to drive faster. The biology has to be addressed before the behavior can change durably. The sixth trap is optimizing one variable while ignoring the ecosystem. You dial in your diet perfectly but sleep 4 to 5 hours. You sleep well, but eat the same 5 foods every day. You exercise consistently but eat under chronic stress with no awareness of meal timing. Each of these is optimizing one input while starving the others. According to research, the gut microbiome responds to sleep, stress, hydration, dietary variety, physical movement, and meal timing simultaneously. It integrates all of these inputs. Excelling in one while neglecting the others produces partial results at best and creates new imbalances at worst. The body is an ecosystem, not a machine with isolated levers. The trap is thinking you can fix it one variable at a time. The seventh trap is waiting to feel ready before making changes. This one is subtle because it feels responsible. I'll start when things calm down. When the semester ends. When work slows. When I feel more stable. But in a dysregulated biological system, readiness is itself a product of the conditions you're waiting to create. The gut produces serotonin that supports emotional regulation. It influences dopamine that drives initiation. It modulates the stress response that determines how manageable change feels. In one study, even small dietary changes, adding one fermented food, one additional fiber source, one consistent mealtime, produced measurable shifts in mood and perceived stress within 2 weeks. Not because of the specific foods. Because the system was finally receiving a different signal. Readiness doesn't come before the change. For many people, it comes because of it.